Yeah. Should I start? So, good afternoon, learners. Welcome to this first online session for the MOOCs course on consumer psychology. This session is meant for addressing questions that you learners have about the course on consumer psychology. This is an excellent opportunity to connect with people who are learning this course and know from them the difficulties that they're facing. It's also a good opportunity and an excellent platform to interact with you all and try and address any queries that you may have regarding the course. I believe the course has just started and we are still in the first or second week of it. So as you progress in the course, you will get introduced to the science of consumer psychology. And as I progress during this session, I'll try and explain to you how this course is built and who is it meant for. Now, there are various ways to interact with me on this first session. You can ask a question on the YouTube platform. You can ask a question, send a suggestion or a feedback onto the meeting chat box for this session that is being held on the Microsoft Teams. You can also post a question on this online Excel sheet. And if none of these works, what you could do is send in a question directly to my email. Additionally, you also have a forum where you can post in your questions. So let's then join that I have about consumer psychology and psychology per se. I'll try and address your queries and questions and take your feedbacks regarding this course. So with the hope that this session turns out to be a fruitful session, let's initiate conversations between us. So whoever you are, if you have logged in, if you have a question, please go ahead and pose those questions so that I can answer them to you. Now, till the point of time I have a question, either on my chat box or on the YouTube forum, let me address questions that has come to me through this Excel doc, which was floated so that people who are interested could post a question. The first question, which is from S. Yashika. She's a student. And the question says that how can cognitive psychology help students manage stress and improve academic performance effectively? A similar question has been posted by P. Vaishali. Now, there is one thing I want to highlight here is that I do take cognitive psychology or introduction to cognitive psychology as a course, but that course was in the January-May semester. The present course that we are dealing is called consumer psychology. And if you want me to answer this question, let's do that. So focusing on the idea that how cognitive psychology helps students to manage stress and improve academic performance. Cognitive psychology provides you ways to monitor your cognition. Everything that we do involves cognition, starting from memory, problem solving thinking, decision making. And these cognitions are the very reason why stress may creep in. Now, this stress may keep in because of a faulty decision or imperfect thinking, a non-logical thinking, or it could come from the fact that things were perceived in a wrong way. When I say wrong, it's not wrong per se. It could be in an incomplete way. So cognitive psychology would teach you those methods and those techniques which can help you in extracting the maximum out of the information that is being presented to you at any point of time. For example, when reading a question like an essay type questions, what should we focus on so that we can effectively answer it within the time frame of an exam? Cognitive psychology would say that you should look at operator words and from there try to find out where these words could originate from. Use effective memory recognition mechanisms and memory retrieval mechanisms, and based on that, use coherent language so that whatever ideas and answers that you have for the essay type question falls in the shortest possible manner and reads as effective. Also, it is sometimes a very good strategy and a decision to not answer all questions, rather answer only those questions which you think would score you the maximum. These strategies could lessen the stress that you have during an exam and can lead to higher academic performance. And so the first two students who have posed this question, I think that should answer your question. And Shubham Mishra on YouTube. So good afternoon. Sheetal has a question, and she says that I'm interested in consumer psychology and want to study this in depth. Is there any degree or something deeper available in India? If yes, what is the eligibility criteria? Consumer psychology is being offered as a course in most management areas. So probably with the IMs or any management institutes. And so this is one place where you can study about consumers and how consumers behave in the marketplace. The eligibility criteria mostly would be a bachelor's or a +2 degree. I think a bachelor's, and from there you can get associated with these management institutes and learn about cognitive psychology. A few institutes will also offer a degree in cognitive psychology, but I think that they do offer at a PhD level. And so that is the scope. And in India, these are the places you can study cognitive psychology. If you have something very specific in mind, you are welcome to put that question. Then I have MS Ilaika. She has nothing to ask. And Sham, it says yes, but the question is not here. And Sri Devi KS has a question which says, I'm planning on doing a research paper with the topic of consumer psychology. can you give me any suggestions or potential topic? Now, Sridevi, if you're planning on doing a paper on consumer psychology, there will be something or some aspect of consumer psychology you would be interested in. Some brief areas could be how consumers decide in a marketplace, or how manufacturers decide where to sell what product. I have Hiya Mishra on my YouTube chat box, and good afternoon here. So as I was telling you about possible topics for research in consumer psychology, you could look at how market segmentation is done. You can look at how consumers decide to purchase something, and what is the purchase process like, or what is the decision process like. You can also look at advertisings and also look at things like attitude and other personality factors which help in deciding how consumers operate in the marketplace. A good example or a good research topic question that comes to my mind is we can look at how perceptual priming can help in obtaining meaning from packaging. What this would entail is how perceptual factors in packaging of a product prime a subject or prime a consumer into going and picking that particular product in the marketplace. So what should you be doing in advertisements? And what kind of priming should you be doing in advertisements so that consumers unintentionally pick your product out of the millions of products which are out there in the marketplace? So I think that could be one of the good topics you can look at, but then there are other topics. If you be a little bit more specific, I could help you with designing a question into what should we be looking at in your paper in consumer psychology. Now I have Jaya Tiwari, who says, providing us the opportunity, my question is, are top companies now hiring consumer psychologists directly, or is it their work still mostly limited to market research and consultancy? Now, since I'm not from the hiring part of a company, or I'm from the academic background, so I really don't know if top companies are hiring consumer psychologists or not. But I can tell you that consumer psychologists are people which most companies would like to keep on their panel. And my guess is that most companies do hire consumer psychologists. Other than that, as an independent contractor, consumer psychologists can always do research and consultancy. But then big companies like Amazon or maybe Tata, they do hire consumer psychologists who look at ways to study the consumer profile and the product profile and try and identify a match between these two so that the company profits from it. Now, if you have another question, you are welcome to ask those questions. Let me now focus myself to the YouTube chats. And so Subha Mishra has a question. It says that we simplify about EQV model. The EQV model has a couple of parts. it focuses on how market segmentations and consumer decisions work. It talks about how the whole process of decision making in consumers really work, starting with how consumers find a product and match it with their needs, then probably do an alternative evaluation, which is like looking into what different products are available, and then based on that, make a final decision. Also, once the decision is made, how consumers, after buying something or after the purchase and use of it, make up their mind into buying the product again. Within this scope, there are various personality factors and psychological factors which are included in the model, which sort of helps the consumer in deciding which product to buy and how to buy. At the start of the model, you have conditions like what type of product it is, what kind of market it is. So things like market segmentation, things like product benefits, and those kind of things. To understand the model in a much better way, my suggestions would be to read the associated books given to you in the course, and they can explain the EKB model in the easiest possible manner. This is a old and most effective model of consumer decision making, a consumer purchase. Arpita has a question: how to get good marks in external exam in consumer psychology? The best way to get a good marks in your consumer psychology or for any psychology or for any exam is use a strategy. So what strategy should we be using? Decide which questions or which sections you want to focus and read them. Watch the videos which has been given to you. Watch them in several blocks, not in a continuous way. And when you see a video lecture, don't only see it, but try to understand what is being said. Correlate that with the slides and the transcripts which have been provided, and that will build a solid framework for the exam. One more thing you can do, which would add up to your good marks, is dedicatedly solving all the assignments which have been given. So solve the assignments. Look at the assignments and try and find where this assignment comes from. Look at the books and try to guess the best possible answer. If you do the assignments sincerely, and even if it is wrong, some of your questions are wrong, and you get an answer for it, try to understand why the answer that you gave is wrong. By doing a little effort, you will be able to do that. So if you do all the assignments properly, look at the videos and read the transcripts, I think that should provide you with a very good opportunity to get above normal marks, which means very good marks. So I hope that answers the question, Arpita. Shubham has another question, and that is, what is the role of subliminal perception in consumer psychology finding? Subliminal perception is a branch of perception which says things are presented below the perceptual threshold. What does it mean? I'll try and explain this to you with an easy example. Let's say that you are watching the India-Pakistan match, and there is a point which is very emotionally charged. For example, the next ball, somebody hits a six and you may win or you may lose a wicket. And right at that juncture, you see an ad which scrolls down at the bottom of the TV. Now, obviously, you are emotionally charged and you very partially read that ad. Or an ad comes in between the actual match scenario. So the fact is, you never wanted to see this ad, but what the ad has done is, it has, without your knowledge, given you the information about that particular product. Next time when you're in a supermarket and you're near that product, which the ad was advertising, you will see that unwillingly or unknowingly you get attracted to that. This is subliminal perception. You were watching the match and your threshold of perception, your perception was focused on the match. But since you were watching the whole of TV, at the bottom of it, something ran. Now, since you were not actively perceiving it, it was below your perception level. So it was below the lineman or threshold of your perception. And it was coded somewhere in your memory. Later on, when something which is equivalent to this was presented, it was matched. And that is how subliminal perception actually works. So I hope, Subham, that answers the question. Sridevi, sir, thank you for the research topic suggestion. I was wondering what could be the studies variable. Studies variable would be for your suggested topic. Now the variable, Sridevi, for the suggested topic would be independent variable. Could be what kind of changes you can do on the packaging. For example, it could be, since we're talking about priming, we could look at colors or forms. So maybe the outline of a box in which something comes in. That is shown to you a previous day. And later on, when you visit the market, you see that brand or that particular product in the particular shape or color that was shown to you the previous day. So this could be the independent variable. The dependent variable could be the success of purchase, which means that how many people would say they would buy the product, or how many people could actually did buy the product, so that you can get, if you're doing an experimental setup, then you can get it from the experimental data, as in how many people choose between buying the product and not, or if you're doing it in the marketplace or in the survey kind of a setup, you can ask the company to give you data in terms of how many people bought your product. And that could be one way of addressing the variables and looking at how perceptual privacy helps you in increasing your purchase. So I think that is one way of dealing with it. Yeah, Mishra. So she has a question. So which theories from general psychology can also be applied in consumer psychology? So here, most theories from general psychology can be applied in consumer psychology. For example, theories of memory, theories of perception, theories of personality, theories of attitude, social psychology, and several other theories of motivation. Most of these theories can actually be applied because consumer psychology is a subpart of general psychology. Consumers are also humans, right? So we're looking at humans only, but then the context is in terms of humans doing purchase. So most theories from general psychology can be applied to consumer psychology. Aryan Tiwari, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Shubham Mishra, thank you so much, sir. Very well explained. Thank you, Via Mishra. There was an ad which started trending around the time of a cricket event because it appeared frequently in between. Can that be considered an example of subliminal perception? It can be if you find out that the product which is being added is bought in large numbers. If the sale of that particular product increases or decreases from the normal day sales or sales which happened before the ad appeared, then it could be subliminal perception. But if no changes occurred or no change results, then that could not very effectively called as subliminal perception. Technically, in psychology, subliminal perception is anything which is presented to you or which is delivered to you below the perception threshold. Some good examples could be how Coca-Cola could be read as eat this and drink this, or the Amazon ad suggest certain things to you. So anything which has been presented to you below your level of perception is subliminal perception. Subham Mishra, so there's a question which says that can you recommend some books on consumer psychology? There are lots of books on consumer psychology, Shubham. I have listed a couple of books on the course website, and beside that, you can look at Engel, Kalat, and Blackwell. They published a book. The EKB model, people from the EKB model, they published a book. You can look at that. There is a lot of books. If you look around, since I'm not teaching this consumer psychology in my regular classes at IIT for the semester, so I'm out of touch with this consumer psychology right now. But then these are there, and so if you want, what I can do is I can create a list of books which are easy to understand and put it. I think there is another book by Ramesh Menon. Put it on the forum. You can have a look at it. But just look around you. There are a lot of books which are available. So Atharv has something to say. And Atharv says, "Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Please recommend some books on current psychology of Indian consumers." So for Indian consumers, I think there is Ramesh Menon at IIM, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad or Bangalore maybe, and he writes a lot of papers and books on Indian consumers. So if you can probably see his work, he talks about Indian consumers a lot. There are other people also. Probably if you look at the IIM websites, Indian Institute of Management websites, they sort of write a lot on Indian consumers. Besides that, if you do a quick search on Google, you will find a lot of material around for Indian consumers. So I think that should be the answer to your question. Here, Mishra, so thank you. So thank you, Hiya, and Arpita, thank you. Thank you, Arpita. So if there are other people who would like to ask questions, or any of you who are here would like to ask questions, please go ahead. Now I'll shift my myself to the team chat, and so I have Jaya Tiwari, and Jaya's I have been trying to explore more in the area, and I was wondering if you could kindly suggest a few research studies you find valuable. I would really appreciate any direction on you can offer. Okay, Jaya. So if you can be a little more specific as to what is it in the consumer psychology that you are interested in, the ones you like, sir. Okay. So in consumer psychology, what interests me is mostly I work in memory. So mostly what interests me in consumer psychology is to do with memory. So how people remember what, so how people remember what to buy, or how people remember product names, or how people correlate product names to product forms, or how people form brand images, right? So a certain brand, for example, Apple. How does the image of Apple appear to you, right? Or to people per se? Apple in itself, how do people view it as, right? That could be some of the things. Or what strategies do people use for buying things? And can we compare these strategies? What is the difference between strategies used by frequent buyers and, or I would say shopaholics, and people who use it for, people who use shopping for their normal purposes? So is there a difference between how people shop? So these are some of the questions you can look at, and I'm pretty sure people use a number of memory techniques. For example, shopaholics, or as you call them, quick shoppers, or you call them efficient shoppers, use some of those memory-based techniques to effectively navigate the shopping area. It could be linking products to benefits, or it could be linking, making up a story in their head on what they want and shop in that manner. These methods are used in organization of memory. So memory organization, for example, building a story, and it's called the pegword method in your memory studies. So these things can be there. Now, perception is the role of unconscious. Yes, that's a good area to look at in terms of consumer studies. So what you could look at is how unconsciously, or how perceptions of products or product features, they enable, or they sort of engage the unconscious. That could be one of the things that you can look at in terms of research. How advertisements work, or what kind of things really happen during advertisements. If you are a little bit more interested, you can start using, or maybe use eye trackers or eye tracking machines, and from there you can learn how perceptual process helps consumers decide, or where is the focus of consumers when they're looking at a product, and how that helps in making the final decision of buying something. So a lot of questions are there. You have to read a little bit, and if you can read a little bit and be more specific, then we can have this conversation again, and then specify, or rather be more specific about what you want to do. So read a little bit. There are lots of papers available. There's a lot of research available. Read that, and then we can maybe do a little bit of more to and fro conversation, and specify on the topic or on the problem that you may be interested in. That's my suggestion. Shubham, so So can you explain how consumer psychology used by top companies all around the world? Yes, definitely. So companies around the world, they use consumer psychology for everything. For example, let's look at the best valued product at this point of time, which is Apple. What does Apple play at? Right? So one simple trick is the more expensive something is, the more better it is. If you compare the Apple chips, the chipset with chipsets of some general phones, you'll find out that they're far inferior. Even look at Google, the Tensor chipsets that they use are far inferior than some of the better chipsets which are available with the Chinese phones or some other phones. But what Apple does is they play around with the idea that the more the price, the better the product. And also with a very old saying that beauty lies in the first instance. Judgment of beauty is through the face. So Apple designs their product in such a way that it attracts consumers and they play around with this trust. Even with a mediocre chip and your memory size is as low as 6 GB or 8 GB, they're selling their products at larger prices. This is a very good example of how consumer psychology can be used to sell products around the world or to make someone believe that your product is good. But you have to be very good at that, right? So that's one good example. There are several other examples of how consumer psychology can be used. For example, all different colors that products have, all different forms that product have, or personalities of how people try to match things to you and say that this is for you. All those things are examples of how consumer psychology can be used by top companies to sell their products. I hope that answers your question, Subham. Now, Pavitra has a question, and which is the best course on consumer psychology to be pursued online in detail? That is a job for you, Pavitra, to find out which is the best course. So I don't have any preference for a course. I just teach this course on consumer psychology. My advice would be go around, look for all the courses, do a self-evaluation, and you'll find out which is the best course on consumer psychology. Probably if you learn from somebody who's working in this area of consumer psychology from one of the Western universities, I think those courses will be far better or more extensive. I wouldn't say far better, but they'll be more extensive. So Jaya Tiwari, absolutely, sir. Looking forward to the next session. Okay, Jaya, thank you. So here has a question here, and so can you please explain heuristic cues? Heuristic, the word says shortcuts. So what are shortcut cues? What heuristic cues is, the more expensive something is, the better it is. This is a heuristic. Why? Because they believe that things which are expensive has more to offer to you, right? Another heuristic cue in consumer psychology could be something called the country of origin cue. For example, the best shoes come from, or the best leather comes from Italy, or the best wine comes from France, or the best engineering is done in Japan or Germany. These are all heuristic cues. What happens here is that instead of looking at products in a very objective way, consumers use these kind of mental shortcuts that they learn from others or through experience of others to satisfy their needs or to avoid failures. This is a good example of what a heuristic cue is. So I hope that answers your question here. And if other people are there who have questions, please ask those questions to me, or if you have a suggestion, you can also put up a suggestion for this course if you want something to be changed, or if you have feedback, any kind of feedback, you can provide that to me. I'll try to incorporate that feedback in the upcoming versions of this course. If you need some help from me on any topic that you're working on, or a concept that you haven't understood in your consumer psychology, maybe you can come up with a concept and you can start asking. So by the time you decide, because we have some 10 odd minutes left for this session. So if you have a question, please go ahead and ask those questions. And so so that I can answer that for you. In the meanwhile, I'll try and make you understand what the course structure is. So we started off by explaining what consumer psychology is all about, what are consumers, and differentiating between different kinds of consumers. And from there on, the course starts building up on the basic process of consumer decision making as to how products are evaluated, how they are compared across different solutions which are available, how consumers use the product, and not only that, how a post-purchase, so after using it, how do they evaluate? So that is how the first part of the course is. Now, Bharat has a question. Let me answer that, and I'll come back to the second part of how the course is designed. So Bharat has a question. Good afternoon, sir. Can selling of a large popcorn bucket as compared to smaller bucket at very merger price difference can be correlated with this? Finally, the consumer ends up buying a large bucket. With what exactly, Bharat? Is this using heuristics that we're talking about? But then, yes, what happens here is that one way to sell things is to show people that in a very less difference, you're going to get bigger things or more things. But the question is, consumers should always ask whether they need that extra thing. So if you have a smaller bucket and that costs, say, 40 rupees, and a bigger bucket is available for 50 rupees or 60 rupees, most consumers would buy the bigger bucket. Because what they see is that in difference of 10 rupees, they get almost double or maybe 1.5 times the price. The price. Now the thing is, we should always ask. If it's a big family, then it's okay. But we should always ask, why do we go, or why should we go for the bigger bucket? One heuristic to know is that as you get more and more, or as free deals come in more and more, or as you're offered more in the same price, there will be some kind of cost cutting. No company, the idea with companies is that they are there for making profit. And no company is going to get rid of this profit or to offer things to you for free. So what they'll do is they'll tweak around with something or the other. So if they're offering more in smaller prices, what we have to realize is not that the company is there for doing something better for you, but the idea that there is something else going on. Also, we should always think about whether we need the better thing. You would have seen that big cars, big SUVs are generally run by one people or one person sitting in a big SUV, and smaller cars have more number of people in them. This is a waste of resource, and we should exactly be thinking about it. The idea is that people should be rational, or consumers should be rational. I understand that they should be, at some point of time, they have to be fun-loving and do things according to their will. But a rational consumer is something who actually wins the race. So people should be rational. We should not buy out of impulse, because impulse purchase creates a lot of problem, not only in terms of money that you have, that you spend, so you will waste your money, but also in terms of the environmental, the environmental garbage that we are producing. So one thing is we should always be concerned, or we should always be thinking about what we are buying. So Shubham, my question. So you mentioned studying blocks, which I learned from you in cognitive psychology because the lecture is 1 hour long, and myself enjoying lecture so much, so I remember almost everything. I do understand, Shubham, and I appreciate the fact, but then studying blocks is a technique which has been proved in cognitive psychology, and it has been proved for the past so many years. Now, when we break something into parts and try learning it, what happens is we get a gap. Now, when we provide a gap between two study materials or two things to learn, the brain has enough time to code this or to sort of save whatever you have learned in the most efficient manner. Because then if you provide breaks in between, the brain not only gets time to read what has been said, but also to extract meaning out of it. If you go to a 3-hour movie, and after coming back, if I ask you to tell me the movie word by word, you probably wouldn't be able to do that. But what you would give me is a gist of the major highlights. Similarly is how the brain works. So if you give it breaks, it can extract meaning of what you have learned. And that meaning will not only help you in learning right now, but in learning for future. It will stay with you for longer periods of time. Also, it can extract things which are not so upfront, right? Whatever things which are not presented upfront in the lecture, but you can also dwell, or the mind gets time, the brain gets time to think, and think in ways which is very different from what happens in 1 hour learning. So breaks should always avoid it. So the brain does get saturated, and so by providing it time, you will be giving it a sort of delay, and in this delay, the brain can process this information much better. A third is a question: will AI affect the traditional consumer psychology model, which is made by humans, or AI will eat the job based on consumer psychology? AI can provide you methods of buying, but it cannot buy for you. The ultimate ruler will be the person. No matter what an AI says you, it can tell you the good points or something, the bad points or something. It can tell you this deal is good, this deal is bad. It can come up with different kind of models. But when it comes with humans, or when it comes with dealing with humans, AI can provide you all the information, but it cannot do one thing that humans can do, and that is think. It can think. AI is no doubt think, right? But they think in ways that has been taught to it. It cannot think in newer ways. One reason or one thing which is saving humans from machines is that machines do things fast, and they do things with some kind of an order or some kind of a rule. What is saving humans is that they do things slow, but they can break this order. And when you break this order, or when you break this rule, you can come up with newer things. Machines always learn with some rule. So stupidity that human beings have can be a blessing in disguise. So I thought it was a question, because some agencies and companies are using AI for making marketing strategies. Yes, you're perfectly right. They're making marketing strategies, and everything is there, and they can take a horse to the water, but it cannot make you drink. Let's say that it made the best strategy for you to buy the new iPhone by providing you all type of reviews and all type of facilities, giving you EMIs or whatnot and what all, solving all your problems. But the final decision of you buying the phone or not decides upon your stupidity or your brain. And your brain can with the best possible alternatives available, still decide that you may not want to buy something. And that's why I say that AIs can do things which are much faster and which are much rule-based. But when it comes to counterfactual thinking or thinking in terms of stupidity, that is something that the AIs cannot do because they've been trained well, right? And we as humans are surviving because we do things which creates new rules. So here has a question, and that says that there has been increasing overconsumption of social media trends, influencing individuals to buy products exclusively, even though they know it leads to environmental consequences. Yes, you are absolutely correct, because we are so connected or we are so engaged with the social media that we sort of get influenced by them. And so we try to sort of get influenced by that. One way in which cognitive psychology, consumer psychology can explain why people follow these trending individuals is the personality factor. We get attracted to people's personality. In your social media world, people say that, look, I was so and so, and this is what I did, and I got this. So you start thinking that if somebody who's like me or below me can do this, why can't I do? And you start doing the comparison. You never ever think of the fact that maybe you don't require it. These social media influencers, as you call them, they force things on you, right? They want you to think, or rather, they don't want you to think. The moment you think, or the moment you put questions, or the moment you start questioning on what these influencers are doing and why they're doing things for free, that is the moment that you turn away from them. So yes, one way or a couple of ways in which consumer psychology can explain this is in terms of the personality dynamics, or in terms of the attitude, or in terms of the fact that people don't want to fail, so probably they trust people who say that they'll test products or they test products. But have you ever questioned their authority or their expertise in doing this? People just don't. They are just influenced by the shine and pomp of the social media, and they get influenced with that, and they start responding. So that's my answer to here. Now, because the consequence of overconsumptions are very obvious and visible around us, and yet people are easily influenced. Yes, they are. People are easily influenced, but remember that there is always a point, and beyond that point, you cannot influence anyone. So even with the best influencers, if you look at them for a longer period of time, there will be a point of no return. From there, you will start avoiding them, and then you will start ditching them. So that's called the sensory threshold, the serious sensory threshold of humans, and so that's how it works. Now, if you don't have further questions, and we are also nearing the end of this session, what I'll try to do is I'll try to end this session for today. We will have a second session very soon, and for all those people, I would like to thank you for being here and putting these wonderful questions and allowing me to explain whatever I know in a manner in which you understand. Thank you for being here. We'll meet again in the next session. Thank you all, and goodbye. In MOOC Studio, we'll meet again. Thank you.